What's made you successful?
I have all these stupid little sayings that I tell myself all the time or tell employees or whatever. And one of them is the one thing in life that you can control is your effort. And I always work my ass off. I went 7 years when I started my first company without a vacation. I lived like I was broke because I was, and obviously today I still do. I don't know why me in terms of why I'm here and somebody else isn't, but I've always just tried to bust my ass and be smart about it and always keep learning and trying to improve.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and I make these videos because I need it. I need it for me because I don't wake up every day and say, yes, let's go conquer the world. No, I wake up and I need that external motivation to match my internal motivation. When I see somebody who's doing amazing things, it makes me just want to play a bigger game. And so I hope that today's video makes you want to play a bigger game too, because your message matters, and let's get it out to the world. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Mark Cuban, and my take on his top 50 rules for success. Enjoy.
How do you fight the fear to take the risk?
You don't. You accept it, and you use that as motivation. I can't even tell you how many times I was terrified. You know, when I first started my business, Barbara's right. You know, when you're broke, you got nowhere to go but up. I was sleeping on the floor, eating mustard and ketchup sandwiches. I had nothing to lose.
Right.
And so, you know, and I was terrified that, look, if I didn't make my next sale, my business was over. And that just kept me going because I didn't like sleeping on the floor. I didn't like gaining 30 pounds because the only place I really ate anything was going to a bar, buy $1-2 beer and eating $30 worth of fried mushrooms. And that motivated me just to keep going and going. And, you know, that fear is going to be inside of you no matter what. I don't care where you are in your life, you are going to be afraid at some level, and you just got to keep on working. And part two to that is if you do the work and you're prepared, that's what builds confidence to overcome that fear and work through it.
How often do you educate yourself a day? Like, is it like an hour? Like
every day, every minute, everything I do is about learning more because that's the only way I can kick your ass. You know, it's not. I'm not going to out athletic you, right? It's not about my basketball IQ. It's about my business IQ, right? And technology and business, and everything's always changing. If 5 years ago, if someone would ask me about artificial intelligence, I wouldn't know, right? Yet AI is the most important part of technology and really business going forward. So if I'm going to be an effective investor, an effective mentor, an effective, operator of businesses, even with the Mavs, I got to understand AI because, like with the Mavericks, when you talk about analytics, it's changed so dramatically, even over the last 5 years, going from, different types of things per and, advanced RPM and all these different metrics for basketball to how do you implement artificial intelligence and pose estimation and computer vision, and how do you understand all that stuff to make the right decisions for the Mavs? And so if I want to be in a position to make those decisions and not just ask somebody else to do it, I got to learn it. And so I put in hours, I do tutorials, I take little online classes, and it doesn't make me an expert. It's not like I'm going to sit, I could get a job if I needed to running AI or running tech for a big company. I couldn't. But I understand all the concepts and understand the issues and how to apply them to business. So if you're going to be good at anything, you got to stay ahead of the game. And business is the ultimate sport. I used to say it to Dirk, and now I say it to Luca. It's like, dude, you play 48 minutes, a 48-minute game, you practice a couple hours, you go home and you relax and you play, you play Call of Duty. Business is 24/7. I'm going every day because there's some 16-year-old kid out there trying to kick my ass in one of my companies, and it ain't going to happen, right? And so I'm that competitive, and I'm that, I work that hard at learning to try to stay ahead of the game.
Michael Jordan had the body, he had the temperament of a champion, so he goes into sports. Do you think they call that bounded rationality? Instead of saying I could be every possible thing in the world, you kind of limit it and say, all right, I'm more of a math guy. Oh, I'm more of a people person. And then you try to find your destiny within that?
Well, I think they go hand in hand, right? Because the type of person you are, kind of points to the things you're good at. Are you 12? You're not going to know. Are you 16? You're not going to know. If you're 18, maybe if you have a special talent,
Yeah.
Right? You know, you can throw a baseball 100 miles an hour. You can sing and your voice is incredible. You know, you're, a concert pianist. You're a chess grandmaster. If you have a specific skill set or talent that just immediately propels you to the top, yeah, you want to follow that.
Yeah.
But I remember having a list. I still have it. When I graduated from college, I was getting ready to graduate, and all the different industries that I thought I might want to partake in. When you find something you're good at, go for it.
Yeah.
And I also always say it's not about passion. Everybody's got passion for something, right? Don't follow your passions, follow your efforts. Because people say, I was passionate to play baseball. I was passionate to play basketball.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean all of a sudden I was going to be good enough.
Yeah.
But I found myself being really curious about business, being really curious about technology. And that curiosity is really what drove me. And I think, particularly if you're young today, curiosity is great. Always learning and trying to find new things and being curious about new things, because that's what leads you to that path. Trying to figure out in advance, that's hard because you don't know what you don't know.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
Generally speaking, Mark, as we kind of wind things up here, you have lived your life as an iconoclast. And in a way, that's a template for other people, but in a way, it isn't. So in other words, how much, you got an ordinary person, ordinary man or woman, how much of an iconoclast could you or should you be like Mark Cuban?
Oh, I don't care. You should just be yourself, right? I mean, I take pride in the fact that I didn't give a shit what anybody thought or said. I was just going to be myself, and I'm my dad's son, I'm my mom's son, I'm my brother's brother, I'm Alexis, Alyssa, and Jake's father, Tiffany's husband. I just try to do the best like everybody else. I mean, I've been blessed. Like I say all the time, I'm the luckiest guy in the world, and I just try not to take it for granted. I try to enjoy every minute. And I think now, as I've gotten a little bit older, I try to give a little bit more back than I have before, and try to help more people. And in terms of whatever, if anybody else finds himself in my position, just enjoy the moment, enjoy every minute of it.
I mean, I guess my question is, are you a role model for people in society?
I don't know. I mean, I never thought of it. I mean, it's not something I try to be. I just try to be myself. I just try to help where I can, do what I can, be a good dad, and I'm not trying to be something for somebody else, just myself.
I'd like to talk a little bit about failure. You've had some, and famously, I think were fired from early jobs, right, which forced you to be an entrepreneur. Were there any failures that in hindsight were just super valuable and like set you on the path?
All of them. Yeah, all of them. Yeah, I mean, I learned more from the places I got fired from and the places I worked that I hated than I did from the places I liked. I learned what not to do. I got fired because I went to close a sale instead of opening up a retail store and sweeping the floor, yada, yada, thinking that when I brought back a check from a closed deal, he would be all excited, and he fired me. I learned from that sales cures all. That company was out of business not much later.
Yeah.
And, it just taught me so many lessons about how to deal with things, how to treat people, what to focus on. And that led to, me getting started, and also taught me that, when I was living 6 guys in a 3-bedroom apartment, I had nothing to lose, nothing, right? And so being young was a perfect time to start a business, because what was my downside? We taken a 7th roommate, it's just like, and so, there was so much I learned from the places where things on the surface seemed to go wrong, but I learned what not to do. And sometimes that's just as important as what you do.
You've got to go to AFWorks to see our AFWork team. You just got to meet some of our Spark Tank finalists. What advice would you give them on innovation and how to take it forward?
I mean, learn from what you saw up here. I mean, the brilliance of each and every one of those ideas is that someone saw a problem. And let me add, all of us have had ideas that we thought were going to be the next great thing. right? We get that feeling in our stomach, oh, this is going to be amazing. And then you talk about it with your friends or who you work with, and they say, what a great idea. And then most of us stop. What you saw up here and what made it so compelling is that they didn't stop. There weren't complicated solutions, right? I mean, some of them were advanced technologically or they were super smart, but they were simple in that they just took basic problems and they tried to solve them. There's nothing, that's something each and every one of us can do. And so the best advice that I can give you is do it. You know, when you have that idea, when you have that opportunity, do it, because that's what separates the people that just separates the entrepreneurs or the intrapreneurs from everybody else. They just took that first step. Don't be afraid, take that first step. What's the worst thing that can happen?
Innovate, be agile, because we're all going through a reset. And, you know, like I say all the time, we're going to look back in 10, 15 years, and there's going to be 5, 10, 20, 50 companies that are world-class game changers that were created because of this pandemic. Why can't it be you? Why can't it be your company? Why can't you change the game? You know your competitors are struggling as well. And even if you're competing with larger companies who maybe can work on smaller margins, or maybe you can work on smaller margins because you're lean and mean, they're worried about protecting their legacy businesses. You know, they can't be as agile as a small business can. And that's the other point I'm making. Innovate. And that innovation doesn't have to come from the top. Again, when you're talking to your customers, when you're talking to your employees who may be talking more to your customers, ask them for ideas on how you would do things differently. Because every CEO, every entrepreneur goes through that thought process prior to all this where they say, if I only had the time, I would do A, B, or C. If I only had the time, I would redo my marketing materials, my website, whatever. If I only had the time, I would redo my supply chain. Or if I only had the time, I have all these new ideas I'd like to try. Now you have the time. Now's the time to do it. Now's the time to be agile. Now's the time to innovate. You know, one of my favorite sayings is when you run with the elephants, there's the quick and the dead. And now you got to be really, really quick because the elephants can't run at all. They can't dance. And so this is a unique time, a unique opportunity.
Got to be great at something. It's not just about being good and doing your job and getting through the day and not creating any problems. It's about what can you be great at? And that's where the effort comes in. Now, you're not going to just be able to pick and choose and be great at it. I couldn't be great at basketball or hockey or a lot of different things, right? So you got to try as many different things because, like I said before, it doesn't matter how many times you fail. You just got to be right one time. That's it, one time. So if you're busting your ass in the mailroom and that ain't it, what are you doing at night? What do you do in the weekends? What can you make that you can sell to other people? What is it that you can buy that you can sell to other people? What is it you can sell online? What is it what service that you can offer? Can you go and teach Alexa how to do skills and go door to door? Whatever it is, you've got to find that one thing you can be great at, build a business around that, bust your ass, and it's possible.
Do you have a favorite Shark Tank behind the scenes story? Like, is there some?
Oh, there's so many of them.
Yeah.
There's so many of them. Most of the time, so Shark Tank, when you come on, they might last anywhere from 30 minutes for a stupid deal to 60 to 90 minutes. So in real time, they go on forever and a lot gets edited out. And there's just times, particularly Lori, where she'll say something and didn't realize that it's completely inappropriate. And so, you know, because she just doesn't think that way. And so it's a complete double entendre. And so one time, she'll kill me for saying this. So one time we had a vitamin company, and I hate vitamin companies on Shark Tank because they make all these claims, any supplements, right? And so they came on and it was spray, and the guy's sitting there and he goes, you know, a lot of people have problems swallowing vitamins, pills, right? So we created this spray. She goes, I have no problem swallowing. And we just died the minute, you know, because, you know, guys don't understand. And then, you know, her husband's back in the back laughing, and then it dawned on her what she had just said. So just those types of moments, or Barbara, you know, or Kevin too. Kevin, you know, we like to pick on Kevin a lot because he's kind of a one-trick pony with royalties and licensing, you know, but there's times when he's got a really great heart and he tells great stories.
The thing about no matter what you're doing, whether you're trying to be a bartender and learning drinks, whether you're a sales rep, whether you're a programmer, you're a consultant, whatever it may be, information now is available to everybody. And, you know, the common phrase, knowledge is power. And acquiring that knowledge is just effort. Going out and connecting to people and learning is just effort. And the one thing, I have all these stupid sayings that, you know, but the one thing in life that you can control is your effort. And that's 99% of the time, that's the difference between being successful and not being successful. Who worked a little bit harder? When you walk into a room to sell something or to be sold or to try to understand something or to deal with, you know, a problem with your kids or whatever it may be, education, who worked harder? That's typically, who worked harder at learning, that's typically going to be the person who has the advantage in the situation. Because we've all walked into situations where we weren't as prepared as we would have liked to be, or we thought we were and somebody knew more. That's the king. The one thing in life each and every person in this room can control from now to evermore is your effort.
What is your one personal characteristic that has helped you most in your entrepreneurial journey?
I'd say two. One, I'm super competitive. I hate to lose. And two, I'm relentless. I mean, I'm the guy. I mean, I remember my first company, Micro Solutions. I'd buy a bucket of ribs, and we did system integration, and I wrote software. I'd buy a bucket of ribs, and that ribs I would just eat as I would write software, and I'd be there, and all of a sudden it'd be 36 hours later, you know, or I'd lose track of days just because I just get so focused and so involved in it. That's what I do, and you know, I still, you know, I read the Hadoop manual and learned a little bit about Pig Latin, and I just want to keep up, right? And so that's probably my biggest strength.
I always say, you know, for every one of my businesses, I say, what would I do to kick my own ass? You right? So whatever business you have, there's somebody trying to put you out of business. There's somebody trying to take a bite out of your business, and it's better for you to figure out how they're going to do it rather than they do it. And so, yeah, that's being paranoid. And so you have to be paranoid. You have to anticipate other people's next moves, and you can't ever, you know, downplay the competition. You know, I was telling, I was at a business plan competition this morning at a college, and they were kind of being dismissive of the competition. And so you can't ever do that. You know, they're out there trying to take you down, and they're not just going to sit still. And if you're good, really, really good, you're going to inspire them to work even harder, faster, better. And so you have to be, you know, very self-aware of what you're good at and what other people are good at. And, you know, a healthy dose of paranoia makes a big difference, is very helpful.
You were a successful entrepreneur before you bought the Mavericks and become an owner. What common element do you see in, you know, running a successful business versus running a successful sports team?
Effort. You know, I've always said the one thing in life you can control is your effort. A lot of people, like we were just saying, a lot of people like to talk and don't like to do the work. I think salesmanship. There's never been a company that succeeded that doesn't have sales. You have to have a product that people want. You have to be nice to your customers. I think nice is underrated. You know, I wasn't always this way, but I think over the last 10, 12 years, I've realized that just by being nice, you get a lot better results, and people tend to want to work with you a whole lot more. So I've recognized that sometimes a smile and you know, just chilling out a little bit goes a long way.
One of the attitude I got from my dad was, you know, when you're older and you look back at your life, what will be the things that you remember? And think about that when you say yes or no to doing something that's really bizarre or really interesting. And so I've tried to take that attitude, whether it was, you know, buying the Mavs or doing Dancing with the Stars, or if you really want to see me embarrass myself, and look, I have no problem embarrassing myself, as all my friends will tell you, but if it's something different and it's just something bizarre and interesting, I'll do it. So if you turn to TNT tonight, there's a show called Drop the Mic, and you'll see me rap. And I am the world's worst rapper, but it was so much fun. And so, you know, when I'm 90 years old and I look back and say, should I have done Drop the Mic and rapped and looked like an idiot? Hell yes. Hell yes, right? Because I got this unique experience where this professional rapper taught me how to rap, and they gave me all this stuff, and I got to, you know, battle with Rusev, this guy who wrestles for WWE, who's like 5'8" and 400 pounds of muscle, and, you know, who threatened to kick my ass in our little battle. So it was fun.
Do you think, like, let's just say if we put 10 guys here, you interview them, okay? you could within a 5-10 minute interview say this dude's not going to make it as an entrepreneur? Could you pretty much know that?
I'm not very good at
doesn't have it?
interviewing. The issue is my interview skills more than
Really?
I'm horrible at
Isn't
it.
Shark Tank interviewing though?
Well, yeah, it is, but I get to do due diligence after the fact, right? So I get to play my henches, but I get to check. Yeah, I mean, I can typically tell, right? I can tell, but by their passion, I can tell by their focus, I can tell by their preparation. There's a whole realm of things in any business. Here's the business you're in, and here's 1,000 things that influence whether or not you're going to be successful. And really, to me, through my experience in businesses, I can put myself in his position and say, okay, here are 900 of the 1,000 things he has to be aware of, and then go through and ask. And by how many of those or her issues they've been able to address already, that kind of gives me a sense of how hard they're willing to work. And I can tell by the questions they ask me. So all I have to do is say, okay, what do you want to know? And, when they start saying, what should I do?
They ask you.
Yeah, and that's fine, right? And I want them to ask questions, but, people like to say, the only stupid questions are the ones you don't ask, and that's not right? Because the questions you ask tell whoever more about you than anything else you do. Because in particular, it tells me about your preparation. If you ask me questions about just basic things that you should have known and you should have down to a science, that's going to disqualify you almost more than anything.
In terms of content, there's never too much content. There's just, because what we want and who we are and how we consume content changes every day through our experiences. The challenge of content isn't can you make it or is there too much? The challenge of content, whether it's business content, the proposals you make, what you put on your website, how you connect to people, is can you tell a good story? And now storytelling has evolved. It used to be we all congregated around the TV and there were 250 channels, but it was the best alternative to boredom. You come home, you're worn out, you sit there, one hand goes in the pants, the other hand goes on the beer, and you watch TV. Now, all the content comes to us. No matter where we are, there's a source of content. And who we are and how old we are and our experiences, that defines what we like. Just go to Twitch. Like I have a 9-year-old son who plays Fortnite all day, every day, if we would let him, right? And he'll watch Ninja. Now, Ninja is I don't know if you all know who he is. He's like a big guy on Twitch that streams Fortnite games. And he came to the Mavs practice facility one day because we got to be friends just through random sources. He was a bigger star than when Tom Hanks came to visit. And this is a guy on Twitch. Now, Twitch is unlimited options of content related to gaming and other things, and they're expanding. YouTube, obviously, just unlimited content. And it's not like YouTube's struggling. Where the takeaway from all this is when there's so many options for content, as business people, you have to figure out how to connect with people. You have to know your audience and you have to know how to tell a story. And honestly, that's not my strength. I literally, and I forget the name of the book, I'd have to look at my phone. I'm reading a book on storytelling because that's how people connect. We have so many choices. If you can't absorb us with something that engages us, a story, and simplify it into a story that we want to connect with, the next person is going to come in and take your business.
My best mistake, that's a great question. Probably buying the Mavs, everybody told me I was an idiot. And
why?
Just because we were the worst team in all professional sports. And that's what everybody said. And I had paid the highest price for a sports team up until that point. And everybody said I was a moron. The second thing, the other time was when we sold to Yahoo, it was for 28 million shares of stock. And I immediately collared my stock to protect it on the downside. Now, this was not when the internet stock market was cratering. It was still going up, right? And so I collared my stock, meaning I didn't really share in much of the gains going up, and there was a limit to the gains I shared. And Yahoo stock immediately went up 30%. And I remember going on CNBC, and they said, don't you feel bad about losing? It's gone up another 80 points, and you'd be worth another $700 million. And I was like, it's tough to feel bad when you're sitting on your G5 watching CNBC, But yeah, so collaring my stock, everybody thought was a big mistake because they thought the market was going to keep on going up, and that's not how it turned out.
If you're going to have and run a business, if you don't understand accounting, you're already behind the 8 ball.
Can't you hire a guy that knows how to run accounting?
But then they still have to communicate to you, right? There's people that don't understand the concept of, the difference between profits and cash. Your accountant might tell you you're profitable, but your cash is going down. Not understanding a breakdown. And when you don't,
do you think you need college to learn that?
Yeah, I think you do, right? Because it may not, for some people, look, if you're so self-motivated that you can take an online course in accounting and teach yourself everything, you're way ahead of the game anyways. But most people aren't. And I'm not saying you have to go to Indiana. I'm not saying go to an expensive school. I don't care if you go to a community college and take accounting and spend $99 for the class. Just, spending the money forces you to be more obligated to do it. But accounting, finance, lesser extent marketing, sales, if the school offers that, these are all that's the language of business. And so while it's possible to teach yourself these things, and while it's possible to hire them, when you're starting your own company, you don't want to have to spend money hiring an accountant, right? You're already probably going to have to hire a lawyer to set up well, let me take that. If you've gone through all these classes, you probably don't have to hire a lawyer to incorporate, right? You can probably figure out yourself. And so your cost of opening up a business drops, but even more important than all that, that's the blocking and tackling. That's the language of business. The thing I learned at Indiana that was more important than anything else, I learned how to learn. And learning became far more important to me, because the one certainty in business is that it's always going to be changing. If you're not always learning, to this minute, if I'm not continuously learning, if I'm not just absorbing as much as I can absorb, someone else is going to kick my ass.
Would you tell us, what do you think is next for you?
I just have fun, Somebody's got to be the luckiest guy in the world, and I think it's me, And I don't want to look back and say, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I do Dancing with the Stars? Why didn't I do Shark Tank? Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? I just want to experience it and experience with my family, and just compete and have fun and learn and just see where life takes me. I don't have here's the one more thing I have to do, or here's the bucket list thing I have to do. Every day of my life's a bucket list, and I just want to enjoy it.
You can fake it till you make it in a lot of areas, particularly if you're working for somebody else. But at the end of the day, if you're going to be great at something, you've got to make the effort to be great at something. Whether it's sports, whether it's physics, math, science, business, whatever it may be, it's not just a natural skill. You've got to learn, and particularly if you're in the technology industry, because it changes every day. When I got started, and after I was a bartender when I first came to Dallas, got into the PC industry, got fired, started my own company, but I learned early on that there was always something new, and most people didn't put in the time to learn it. It's like now with artificial intelligence. Lots of people talk about artificial intelligence. Lots of people talk about machine learning and neural networks. Not a lot of people are putting in the time to take classes or do the tutorials or to learn how to apply it to business, and that's what it takes. And that's just something I've always enjoyed, so I've been fortunate at that.
You may not be a leader to anybody more than the two people who work for you, but it's still a responsibility. And I think as you gain more success, however you define that, being a leader becomes more and more important. How you define success becomes more and more important. What you're able to do and the impact you're able to have becomes more and more important. Where I am in my life at this point, it means trying to accomplish things that I've dreamed about but was never in a position to try to accomplish or succeed at, and that's what I'm trying to do now.
I think people will always stop me and say, well, I want to start a business, what should I do? And if you don't know, you're not ready.
Right.
You've got to have something that you're good at. And if you're going to do it, you got to be the best at it. Because I'll tell them, look, if I come in and compete with you, I'm going to kick your ass. Are you ready to compete with me?
Yep.
Right? And you've got to work like there's someone working 24 hours a day to take it away from you.
I'm not a big mentor guy. I've always been a believer that if you really want to learn something and be great at something, you have to put in the time. A lot of people look for mentors as shortcuts, when in reality, maybe they help you a little bit, maybe they help you avoid some mistakes, but when you're just getting started out in particular, it's okay to make those mistakes. And more importantly, you have to make the commitment to put in the time to learn what you need to learn to be great at something or good at what you want to be good at.
What are you looking for when you get pitched? Like you get pitched on television, you get
everywhere.
pitched in your real life. You clearly
I
answer
get
your DMs.
pitched in the restaurants and restrooms,
bathroom,
you name. I look for something that makes me think, why didn't I think of that? Or it makes me think, oh my goodness, that's a good idea. And then the follow-up questions are, is it differentiated enough? Can they protect it? What's the unique element? And then the secondary part to that, or not even secondary, the other part of it is, how good an entrepreneur is and can I help them? And so once I get past those initial hurdles, whether it's Shark Tank or just, people emailing me, literally, I've invested well over $100 million into companies for people I've never met to this day.
Interesting.
My biggest regret was I wasn't as nice as I should have been. In my mind, I didn't suffer any fools, right? If I didn't think you were using common sense, then I would get annoyed. And no one liked to be around me when I was annoyed. And for me, it was just like faster, 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 faster. The train's speeding up. How fast can we go? That was a huge regret that I would do over again. I think with the Mavericks, when we had our problem with sexual harassment and I wasn't there to oversee it, I thought by that point in time I wasn't, like today I didn't go into the office ever. And so I missed it and it hurt a lot of people and that was awful. So I'd say, those two things are probably the lowlights in my career.
The best money I ever spent was when I bought a lifetime pass on American Airlines. Right after I sold my first company, I got really, really inebriated with a bunch of my really good friends. And they were all like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And, I'm not a fancy guy, as you can tell. I'm not into this and that, but I like to travel. I like to have fun. And I bought a lifetime pass on American Airlines for $125,000, which let me travel 100,000 miles, I think, a year for the rest of my life. So if all of a sudden I turn 20 years old with $20 in my pocket in this crazy year, 2020, could I be successful again? The answer is yes. And I'll tell you exactly what I would do. I'd get any job at all that allows me to pay my bills. Doesn't matter what it is, because now I know I can learn from anything that I do. Number two, now that I have a little bit of a tech background or a lot of tech background, I teach myself to do Amazon Alexa and Google Home skills. A lot of people have Amazon Alexa in particular, and they know how to use it generically, but they don't know how customizable it is. So I would, just like I did back in the days when I started Micro Solutions, and I went to all these different retail stores, handing out my business cards saying, if you ever have questions or need help with PCs and computers, I'm your guy. I would do the same thing now.
When I look for leadership, I look for a few things. One, it's somebody who can relate to people, someone who can define a vision, someone who is nice, and someone who recognizes that it truly comes down to helping people achieve their personal goals and aligning those with the goals of the organization. If you can take the goals of your organization, whether it's your company or somebody you work for, and align them with the interests of the people that work for you, you'll be a great leader. And you also have to recognize, in this day and age, people aren't looking for lifetime jobs at a company. They want jobs that'll help them improve their own skill set so they can find a better place in life that they enjoy. And if you help people realize their personal goals like that, great things will happen for you as a leader.
I think now I've really evolved some of my focus to trying to help disadvantaged entrepreneurs, people who have less opportunity. I just invested with a woman, Arlen Hamilton, who we together created a little $1 million fund where she's going out and finding 10 businesses run by people of color or disadvantaged LGBTQ type communities and just opening doors, because I think my experience applies to anybody, right? Any entrepreneur, no matter what you're trying to sell. And I also think that it's a great business opportunity simply because the markets that they want to sell to are underserved. There just aren't as many entrepreneurs, so there's more opportunity. And so I think it makes great business sense as well.
Whether in business or sports, when building your team, are you more interested in getting someone who is an expert at something, or would you rather have someone with more potential? Question of the day. Olivier, I want an expert. Everybody's got potential. Everybody. I want someone who knows something. Give me someone who knows their shit
every time, because then I can turn it into something real. The key to being successful and achieving your dreams, no matter what they are, is finding something you really, really like to do and being great at it. When you're great at something, you get to write your own ticket. So I'm always going to hire the expert. If you just have potential, chances are you're working for the expert.
How do you identify what's next?
You know, I just read a lot. Right. I'm just one of those guys that just consumes information.
On what, the internet or where?
Everything. Yeah. Everything. Anywhere I can get it. I just try to learn.
And you've always been this way.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always been like a knowledge geek where it mostly tech, but it could be anything. Anything business related, technology related, marketing related, culture related. I want to try to stay on top of it. You know, Steve Jobs had this one quote that really stuck with me. He said, everything's a remix. And if you look at the early days of the Apple products, there was this company back in the day called Xerox PARC. And Xerox came out with the first mouse-driven PC. But their marketing sucked. And they had no idea what they were doing. No one knew what they were about. Steve Jobs came in, a little bit of this, a little bit, remixed, and bam, right? All of a sudden you got Apple and then a Macintosh and then
he made it sexier.
Yeah. And then even he got fired, right? He got fired from that company and then they had to bring him back to make it work. And so, for me, the more you learn, the more you know how to remix. And that's what this is all about. So, how do you go from YouTube, which was the first platform for video that got big, to Instagram, to Snapchat, and know, okay, do I want to be on Discover? Do I want to be on Reels? Do I want to be on TikTok? And if I do this, how's YouTube going to treat me? And all the decisions you guys have got to make on a daily basis. And the fact that, like we were just talking, you created all these products and you want it to be organic. That's a business decision too. And then you have to learn by trial and error, right? You were curious about what might work. Obviously you're walking proof of what does work, right? And now you've got to be able to continue to make those decisions, because in this business with all the margins on these products, everybody's coming at you all the time, right?
Yeah.
And they think they can do the exact same thing, but it's not that easy. But for me, it's like, that's why I try to stay ahead, because whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it's VR, whether it's crypto, whether it's metaverse, all these things may not be prime time yet, but I want to know when they will be, and I want to be out front when they are. You got to sell, because in my experiences, the CEOs, the owners, the founders that didn't sell, they all failed.
Yeah,
with no exceptions, 100% of them failed. And when you're just starting and it's just you, who else is going to sell?
Nobody.
And that's the other, and that leads to another mistake entrepreneurs make. They try to hit hiring home runs, right? So the minute they hit a roadblock, I'll just hire I'll hire a new marketing person, right? Or I'll hire a new head of sales. Thinking that, this person's amazing. No one's ever hired somebody and said they suck really bad.
Of course not.
Right? Oh, I found the most amazing person. Why'd they leave their last 5 jobs? Oh, they were amazing, but right?
That's such a good point. See, that's what I love how your brain works. It's like it's so true. It's so practical and common sense.
It's pragmatic, right?
It's common sense, but common sense isn't so common.
No, I know. You just ask why'd they leave? But entrepreneurs tend to think, okay, I'm hiring this amazing marketing person and he or she is going to know what to do.
Yep.
And then they tell that to their investors, because that's typically why they're hiring a marketing person. And they say, this person's amazing. Our next quarter is going to be great. And then it's not. Then they go to the next marketing person.
Totally.
Then they're in this hamster wheel again and they're screwed. And it's the
also
same
relying on other people.
Well, yes. And that's the whole thing, right? You've got to be able to solve the problems yourself.
Self-reliant.
Now, at some point your business gets bigger and you have to learn how to do a lot of other things. When you go to 5 people, it's one thing. You go to 10 or 15, it's another challenge, as you learn how to manage and deal with people. But at the same time, if you're not great at your core competency, how are you going to train those people?
Right.
How are you going to know what the goals are for the organization and how to communicate to them, how to do what you need them to do?
Thinking about the next big opportunity in the cryptocurrency space. And to your credit, you were around for DeFi summer. DeFi was a big opportunity in 2020. You were early in saying Ethereum and NFTs is, possibly going to be really big, and it was really big. After cryptocurrency finds a bottom, do you have any thoughts about the next big opportunity in the space?
It just comes down to applications. If you guys got great ideas, I'm wide open, right? I'm tired of the bullshit pitches I'm getting, like new DeFi for new, there's a great analogy between what happened in Silicon Valley with SaaS software and other applications, even like Uber, right? where tons of money came in and subsidized all these apps. Uber's just now starting to make money 15 years, whatever it is, 12 years later. There's other apps that same thing. And so what happened with apps, like I was an investor in Box, and I actually wanted them to just generate revenue as opposed to raise money to subsidize free online storage. And so they went their way, they bought me out, and it took them, I don't even know how many years for them to make money. I'm never a big fan of raising hundreds of millions of dollars to do tens of millions in business, but that's exactly what happened in crypto. But crypto was distorted because people looked at the token valuations. And so what would happen is they go out and do a token sale and generate a bunch of capital, or even worse, they'd raise hundreds of millions of dollars from VCs and use that money to create a fake yield, right? We saw that with Anchor, right? Where it was like, okay, we're offering you 20%. And then they hope that they'd be able to generate enough loans to cover the 20%. Never came close. All that yield was subsidized. All those 5, 7, 8, 10, 20, 50, 90, 100% yields have always been subsidized by investors. Now with those investors not willing to subsidize anymore, you're not seeing the crazy yields. And you're not even seeing the inflationary yields from the blockchains anymore. Where you would say, okay, if you stake this, we're going to pay you 4% or 8% or 12%. And they can't even afford to do that because, if you inflate too much, there's not enough intrinsic demand to cover that inflation, and your token price is going to drop. And that makes your investors mad. That makes your speculators mad. And it ignores the fact that to be a real business, you have to be a real business. And crypto doesn't change any of that.
COVID, you have said, has changed the world in terms of opportunities. It's obviously hurt people, but it's obviously helped people who are entrepreneurial. So you've said this is a good time to actually figure out new businesses, new areas of business. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, it's so unfortunate, but it's true. I mean, we've heard Warren Buffett say, buy when there's blood in the streets. And it's almost analogous here. So many small businesses are closing. So many, retail stores are closing. Malls are going bankrupt. Companies that are unable to transition to selling digitally or really taking full advantage of e-commerce are struggling. Big companies aren't sure about how to protect their legacy businesses. That type of uncertainty creates a lot of opportunity. And combine that with people becoming far more comfortable with purchasing online and living a digital lifestyle, I think there's a lot of unique opportunities that are available to people who are creative, who have a vision for the future. I think, 10, 15, 20 years, we'll look back and there'll be 10, 20, 30 world-class companies that were created by people who we probably are thinking are crazy right about now.
I have a question for you. Do you think that people, because I also know that you kind of came from nothing.
Just normal family, yeah.
You weren't handed anything.
No, nothing.
Do you think it's harder for people now to reach the level of success that you have because of the saturation?
No. I think it's easier.
You think it's easier now?
I think it's easier. I mean, let's look at y'all, right? You all have good idea, good connection to people, right? Just went for it. And when other people might say you do A, B, and C, or you should do A, B, and C, you did D, E, and F, right? Yeah. And found your angle. And, the only thing that can stop you is, would it work, or, was it a good idea or not? And that's the thing, like you have so many tools. Like back in the day, you had to buy these big computers and, it was more expensive. Now you get a laptop or an iPad and you get an internet connection and you can have any tech company
world's
you
yours
want.
right now, I think.
Yeah.
Social media too.
And I mean, look what we're doing now, right? We're doing this and you're going to have it up on YouTube and streaming it and millions of people are going to be able to get to it.
Yeah.
And it's not like you're spending millions of dollars like a TV show or a movie would have been 25 years ago, right? It's actually easier. Now, on one hand, the tools are cheaper and more accessible. The other hand, there's more competition.
How do you do all of this? I mean, honestly, your schedule between the Shark Tank, all those companies doing these things. I mean, what time are you waking up in the morning?
6, 5:36.
Like, what's the day? Like, give me a day in the life of you.
I probably should admit this, but like I'll get up at 5:36, particularly during the school year when my kids are going to school.
You have 3 kids
Yeah,
too.
12, 15, and 18. Yeah.
Are you involved? Do you see these kids? Because
Yes.
how are you able to do all of
I don't
this?
travel that much unless they're out doing stuff. So
Really?
like right
Okay.
now, my middle daughter, Alyssa's at camp. My wife and my youngest son, Jake, who's 12, are in Iceland right now. They went on a trip because while I'm shooting Shark Tank, that's when they all know to go do their trips.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. And then my oldest is on a trip as well. So with her class. And so so while we're shooting, they're gone. And so that's when I pack everything in.
And then you do everything.
Yeah. But otherwise, I can do 1 day trips here or 1 day trips there because, I'd rather spend time with my family.
So you are like, you spend a lot of time with your.
Yeah, of course.
You can have
that's
both?
the best. Yeah, that's the best part of my life.
Okay,
yeah.
so tell me the day. Give me your day. Like you wake up at, you said 6 o'clock.
Yeah, so wake up. Yeah, 5:36. Say hi to everybody. Gets everybody going to school if that's what's up, and then do my email and typically get back in bed. Do my email. Get through any emergencies. Go back, take a nap.
What's the worst idea you've ever had?
So like right out of school, I got fired from a job, and then I was trying to come up with something to sell, and it was powdered milk. And it was just, I'm like, well, people need to save money on milk. So, if it doesn't taste quite as good, no, I learned the hard way. That didn't last a week. What other shit have I fucked up? I mean, it's just, I'm like everybody else still, right? It's just like, you'll think of something.
Yeah.
And you'll start thinking about it, and then you'll Google it, right? And you'll see if it's out there. It's not, no one's done this before. Then you'll tell your guys or your friends, like, okay, that's not bad.
Gain a little traction that way, a little bit of confidence. Yeah.
But then you got to try to actually get someone to buy it, right? And that's always the hard part. And what people forget, when you go out there and start Googling and it's not there, there's a pretty good chance it's because they went out of business, right? And it's already been there. But I've had plenty of bad ideas. But that's okay, man. Like I tell everybody, you only got to be right once.
Yeah.
No one remembers
100%.
like how many times I screwed up. Just got to be right once.
What do you do on your free time? Like when you can do anything?
Yeah, now it's my kids, right? My kids are 12, 15, and 18. So I'm at that spot now where like going to play one-on-one with my son is pretty cool. Just, my 18-year-old daughter is getting ready to go to college. So just getting any of her time is cool. And then my middle daughter is just unique, man. She's crazy and I love hanging time. So that's really like my number one priority now.
If it wasn't family and if it was not business, what do you enjoy?
Play golf? I'm not a golfer. I hate golf, but I play pickup basketball. So like a couple times a week, I'll go play pickup basketball, go work out, go hang with my friends, whatever, chill. But now, it's family and business and working out more than anything else.
Would you say the number one, not to pivot that hard, but like, would you say the number one reason why people are failing then is because their lack of ability to work hard and to kind of dig in? What would it be?
No, I'd say they're misguided and they lie to themselves when they start. Right? Oh, I think this business is good. Everybody goes through that same process with a new business. Hey, what do you think about this idea?
Right.
Then you go on Google and you look up, I don't see it. It's great. Of course, no one tells you that it's not there because 50 companies have failed doing the same thing.
Right.
And there's nothing left to show that they died. But, then you get excited, you check with your friends, and then they try to raise money.
Yeah.
That's what screws them up, right? Raising money is not an accomplishment, it's an obligation.
Yeah.
If at all possible, you want to start just organically with sweat equity. Those are the best businesses because you get to retain 100% of it.
Right.
And there's no rush. And then the second mistake people make is they push the top line instead of the bottom line or gross margin dollars.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm $1 million in sales, like that's an accomplishment, or 10 million. Where like if you've raised funding, you have your quote unquote KPIs, right?
Yep.
Right. Or what's the new one? QOKs or something. There's something ridiculous that QKP. I don't know. They always come up with these acronyms.
What is it?
QKP. I don't know.
Okay.
Just the one I started seeing. And so everybody's like, oh yeah, and they think it's an accomplishment if you're doing, I went from 1 million to 5 million in sales. Okay, that's somewhat great, but what matters is what's your gross margin.
Right.
Because if you're in that hamster wheel where you're growing, but you need to keep on raising money to grow.
Right. That's not good.
No, we
Right.
see what's happening now when people can't raise money, you're done.
And while others have said, well, I've, raised 30 million or 50 or $100 million, unless you have a really good reason, that you're relativity space and you need to raise money because you're building, 80-foot tall 3D printers.
Yeah.
Right. You're not going to do that out of your basement. But for most entrepreneurs, it's something where it's an arbitrage on their time.
Yeah.
Right. I can do this more efficiently than Jen or Mark can. So it's worth it for Jen or Mark to buy this product or service from me so that they can use their time more efficiently.
How do you know, is it a gut feeling when you're investing in somebody to say, I think they can do it, or
Yeah, I mean, I can tell. I've done this so many times that different people have different qualities, the fight they've been through, but, and really it's not just the fight, but it's how little they talk about the fight. I have a rule that the longer the backstory, the worse the investment. So there's a lot of people who've been through a lot of challenges and a lot of difficulties, and they want to tell you about it, right? And that's all they want to talk about. Whereas with Arlen, I got a glimpse of her backstory, but she started talking about the company she's investing and why. Yeah. And, she knew what she was doing. And more importantly, she was able to give me access to entrepreneurs that I couldn't get access to on my own. And that really was the clincher.
I don't know anything about business. Didn't go to college. Neither of my parents went to college when I was young. They're like, you're going to have to figure it all out. And so, start figuring it out. Yeah. So I started selling baseball cards. I sold garbage bags door to door. I sold the garbage bags. Then I sold candy door to door. I was one of those kids, right? Hey, and then you hope you make some tips. And I would literally sell magazines door to door, sold candy door to door. Then I had my own crew of kids selling candy when I was 16. So then I was starting to make some money. Once I learned how to sell, like the garbage bags, I was fearless. Right? Because no one who says no to a kid, right? If you tell your wife that you're spending 75 cents a week for the education and enjoyment of your family, is she going to be upset or is she going to be proud of you? And it was just like bam, bam, bam. And once I could sell them, right? Yeah. And it's just like people coming out of work and there I am hustling candy bars, right? Yeah. And once people realized I could sell, they were like, okay, now you can drive. Why don't you take these kids around and show them? And then from there, that's what gave me confidence. Because once you can sell, it's like when you guys got started here, right? You guys are ball players, you want to do this, but then there's the business side of it. And the hardest part is selling, right? Yeah. Having the confidence to say, okay, this is why we're good, and this is why you should be a sponsor, and this is why you should work with us. I had none of that fear. Yeah. None of that. And so once, that's my big game shot, right? Big shot Rob, when it came down to just being able to close the deal, I was fearless. And to this day, man, I'll walk in anywhere, anytime, any place, and I'll sell. And I'll close.
You've said that business is the ultimate sport.
Yeah, it is.
Explain what you mean by that.
In basketball, you play 82 games plus the playoffs. You know who you're going to play. You have time to prepare. There's an off season. You get some time off. In business, you don't even know who your competition may be. Yeah. And you're competing with them 24/7, by 365, by forever. If I start a business and you're in my industry, I'm coming to kick your ass. Yeah. And if you start a business and you're in my industry, I'm coming to kick your ass, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's why I keep on, investing in companies, starting companies, whatever it may be, because that competitive side of me, that's where the juices flow. Yeah. And it's just that ongoing, nonstop intellectual challenge to be great at whatever industry I'm in. Mm-hmm. Doesn't always work.
But your goal is to be great.
You're not going to go 82-0 in business either. So
everybody thinks they know what it means to be an entrepreneur or be a businessman, but it actually feels like a very specific thing when you really think about it.
To be an entrepreneur,
Yeah. How would you describe it?
You've got to be willing to be all in. Right, in sports you can be athletically gifted, right, and that'll carry you a while. And then if you want to be one of the top 450, it's not only being athletically gifted, it's what's your skill set and how do you work on it and what's your basketball IQ. Mm-hmm. And business is very similar, except that it's ever changing. Mm-hmm. We talk about, 3-point play and analytics change basketball some and, less than the big man, whatever. In business, it's changing every day. Yeah. There's some new technology, there's some new approach, there's some new rule, there's some new tax law, whatever it may be. So the rules are always changing. And so you've got to be curious, you've got to be agile, you've got to be able to sell, you've got to be able to communicate, you've got to be empathetic, you've got to be considerate, you've got to be nice. There's all these different skills that come together to be good as an entrepreneur.
Anybody who's working and getting paid by the hour is going to have a challenge when something goes wrong. Right? Do you lose a job? Does the dishwasher break? Does somebody get sick? Is it more than your deductible, or if you haven't covered your deductible yet, can you cover your deductible? If you're getting paid by the hour, it's hard to save money. I don't care if it's $10 an hour, $15 or $50 an hour. It's a difficult position. The only way that people really improve their wealth is by buying a house, condo, whatever it may be, owning shares of stock. And so I think that's where you start to change the rules.
In Ratatouille, the chef says, anyone can cook. Do you believe, Mark Cuban, that anyone can be an investor and an entrepreneur?
Yes, of course. I mean, I think we're all inherently entrepreneurs. It's just you have to find the thing that you're good at so you can be a successful entrepreneur.
And what would you say, in addition to luck, is the best, most valuable trait that can really help someone survive?
Effort. Yeah, for entrepreneurs, it's effort because it's nonstop. You don't know what to expect. You don't know what tomorrow is going to be. You know, your business may be crushing it, and then somebody makes a mistake on the term of their notes at Silicon Valley Bank, and the next minute you go from, I'm on top of the world, to how am I going to make payroll? That's the nature of being an entrepreneur. We're partnering with a lot of independent pharmacies so that we won't just be mail order, and we'll start a test on that March 1st. And the goal is, again, to allow patients to get their medications how, where, when they want them at a price they can afford.
So do you think that basic model of a transparent set markup works for branded drugs?
Yes, absolutely. You guys know, manufacturing and selling generics, the distortions you face with PBMs and insurance companies. The fact that an insurance company wants you to price your generic at even sometimes above a brand price is insane. It is just absolutely freaking insane. And we're just going to say, that shit, sorry, there's just not going to happen. And it's not about the patients anymore. And so you've got these big companies that are vertically integrated that have hundreds of subsidiaries that play left pocket, right pocket. We're going to be an accumulator. We're going to be the switch. We're going to be this. And they take a little piece here and there. And then they do everything they can to distort the information chain, right? We're not giving you your own data about your own the drug you manufacture. So for brands, there are so many games that have to be played unless you have, a unique drug like Keytruda, like we were talking. Otherwise, you're at the mercy. And what's happening is the PBMs in particular have done a phenomenal job of demonizing Teva, all the manufacturers, generic and brand. Now every patient in the world thinks you guys are the bad guys. Brand manufacturers, they're the bad guys. That's wrong. Not that they're, harmless, and not that they always do things right, but it's just wrong that you've been demonized like that. That's why transparency is so important, because no patient is trying to find the net effective drug price that you're being paid to say who's the bad person in all of this. They just want to know what their cost is, what their availability is, and what hoops they have to go through. Well, now you just look it up, brand or generic, on costplusdrugs.com. You know what our cost is. 2, it's not the manufacturer that's creating the problem, because here's the price that they're selling to Cost Plus at. And so for a brand name, it's even worse for them than it is for you. And so we want to solve that problem. And then in terms of support that the patient gets with hubs, the games that are paid, just to get information back is insane. It's like people forgot about the patient. We want to make it easier for you, brand manufacturers, to be able to say to anybody that comes to you, go to Cost Plus Drugs, you see what they're paying us, you see that this is the right price, and you can trust it. Because that really is our biggest product. That's what we truly sell at Cost Plus Drugs, and that's trust.
I never ever thought in terms of money, okay, I need to make millions. I always thought in terms of time. Has always been my driving motivation. How can I control my own destiny? How can I control my own time? I started a company called Micro Solutions, and from there we just grew and grew and grew and ended up selling that. And that's how I got my first stacks. So here's the rundown of when I sold Micro Solutions for $6 million. So $1 million went to employees, $2 million to a partner I brought in, $2 million to me. I live like a student, but the first thing I did was buy a lifetime pass on American Airlines, and I just went all around the world taking friends and partying like a rock star. Other than the Air Pass, I wasn't just buying, I was saving it. I could have gone out and bought a bigger house, bought a nicer car. I didn't care. What it bought me was freedom. I never thought I was going to work again. I'd made a ton of money in the stock market. I was worth
$20+ million. Life was good. Then one of my buddies from college, Todd Wagner, sat down with me, and this was in 1995. He was like, there's this whole new thing called the internet. There's got to be a way we can use this to listen to Indiana basketball. We set up this website called AudioNet, and the next thing you know, video comes along, and we turned it into a company called broadcast.com. And so we started what turned out to be the very first streaming company. On July 18th, 1998, we went public, and we're guessing, what's the stock going to open at? And I was the high. I'm thinking $33. Goes $62.75. All of a sudden, I'm worth $300 million plus. And I'm sitting there thinking, if this stock price triples, I'm a billionaire. Well, we took that company and became the biggest media portal on the internet. And Yahoo came along and made us an offer. And all of a sudden, that stock price tripled, and I was a billionaire.
What role do you think billionaires should play in terms of making the world better?
I mean, I'm not going to tell someone else what to do with their money. Everybody's got to decide who they are. But I think it really comes down to how you define capitalism. To me, capitalism isn't about how much money can you make. Capitalism means how much impact can you make. Mm-hmm. If you can be an entrepreneur and start a company, where do you get your satisfaction? And satisfaction can come from, how much money do you have? It can come from, how much have you changed the world? It can come from, how have you changed the lives of 7 people that were important to you? Mm-hmm. But that's the beauty of a capitalist system. The bad side is, I think we've defined it for so many people that it's just about money. Yeah. It's not about impact. And that's one of the reasons I do Shark Tank, because we send the message that the American dream is alive and well. And I personally try to send the message that, a company can have incredible amounts of impact on people. I did a deal last year with Erica, this company called No Limbits, Limbits, and she has a prosthetic leg, and she started creating fashion for people with prosthetics. Mm. It's just, and it's small now, but it's going, yeah. And every single one of her customers, she's impacting their lives and making it better. Mm-hmm. You see that every time with businesses. And so to her, to me, and to many others, capitalism is your opportunity to use your own skills and and to grind it in your way to have an impact. And, mm-hmm. To me, that's the way to go, but I'm not going to tell somebody else how to go.
As opposed to the other startups that have appeared over the last 5 to 10 years, you seem to be jumping right into some sort of vertical integration model or parallel supply chain, I think is how you guys speak of it publicly. Of the 4 business lines, manufacturing, wholesale, pharmacy, and benefit management, which have you found to be the most challenging and why?
Manufacturing. There are a lot of shortages, as everybody knows, and so we're doing fill and finish manufacturing for drugs on the shortage list in Dallas, and it's all automated with robotics and all that, and it's always something. So we had thought we'd already be up and running, but hopefully in the next couple of months we'll get there, but that's been the biggest challenge.
Yeah. And which one do you think of those stakeholders, the benefit management, wholesaler, pharmacy, and manufacturing, do you think is the ripest for disruption? They all
are. They all fit together because, again, wherever there's pricing distortion for reasons that don't benefit the patient, which is there is no pricing distortion that benefits the patient, then that's an opportunity for us to disrupt. And again, trust and transparency cures all of that.
Okay. So obviously you're on a quest to increase your offering. Mm-hmm. What do you think the barriers are for that?
I think it took some time, and again, thank you to all of you who supported us at the beginning, but it took some time for people to think, okay, it's just a Shark Tank guy, he's just, messing around with this, and now people are starting to realize we're real, hopefully by the end of this week, we'll have 2 million accounts set up and growing, and the number... Patients. Patients accounts, people who set up, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And lives, yeah. And so... and the number of scripts and orders keeps on growing and coming in and accelerating. And so, we're just going to keep on seeing where it takes us because, again, I have the saying, when you run with the elephants, there's the quick and the dead. And so we have to be quick. And I don't think we're impacting anybody else's business in a big way, but we'll get there.
I told you I value time. First thing I bought, Gulfstream G5. Now, I didn't just buy it. I'm a tech guy. I go online and I'm like looking up Gulfstream G5, email the guy and I'm like, can I do a test flight? First time I'd ever been on a private plane. Oh, sitting there and I'm thinking, oh, this could be my plane. So I stacked up some more and I sent him an email saying, done. $40 million, I'll buy it. Biggest online purchase in the history of the internet still to this day was my buying that Gulfstream G5. Why'd I want a plane? Because the most valuable asset you can never own is your time. And the one thing I can do is save time and get to places, and it was amazing.
First time you put your name on something, Mark Cuban's Cost Plus Drugs Company.
First time ever.
All right. Tell me why. Why put your name on this company?
Because it's 2023 in the United States of America, and there's still people who have to choose between medications, rent, and food. And that's insane. And so when you start looking at the industry and start asking why, it goes back to it's such an opaque industry where there's zero transparency. And it's funny because we started this 4 years ago, but only actually launched it 13 months ago. And a lot of it was because the Pharma Bro Shkreli, right? I was talking to my partner.
Pharma Bro Shkreli.
Yeah, right.
Deep cut.
Yeah. And so I was talking to my partner, Dr. Ashmayansky, and I was like, look, if this pharma dude can increase prices 7,500%, that means there's got to be such a market distortion going on. Yeah. We should be able to cut prices in the same manner. And so starting with generics, we've gone out and put together an inventory list so far of 1,100 SKUs, but the key to it is transparency. So when you go to costplusdrugs.com and you put in the name of your medication, whatever it may be.
Example?
So imatinib, right, which is a drug for chemotherapy. And so you put in imatinib, and the first thing that comes up is our cost. We show you exactly what we pay for it. Then we show you our markup, which is 15%. Then we show you what we charge for the pharmacy, what to pay the pharmacist, right? The fill fee, and then the shipping, because we're mail order. That's it. You see exactly what we pay our markups. You know exactly what it is. And because of that simplicity of transparency, our pricing is in some cases insanely less. So with imatinib, before we got in this business, if you were prescribed imatinib, and like, you know how it typically goes when you get a prescription from your doctor. Doctor says you need this medication, right?
To survive, because you're getting chemotherapy.
Right, and just, it could be anything, right? And then the next question is, what pharmacy do you use?
Yep.
It's not, this is what it's going to cost. It's not, and the crazy part is, even the pharmacist doesn't know what they're going to charge you until you show up and you show the prescription.
Oh, hey, and then you're like, oh, I thought this was covered.
Right, and so in the case of imatinib, people were getting charged more than $2,000
for a life-saving medicine.
For a life-saving medication. We've had a bunch of price cuts. I think our price now, depending on the strength, is $12.
Wow, which is. I mean, I rarely want to use this word, but that's sinful.
It is sinful. You know, it's insane, and it's only because the entire healthcare industry, but particularly pharmaceuticals, is opaque. Nobody knows the actual cost of anything.
What is your thing, and when did you kind of understand what it was?
It hasn't changed. My thing is learning whatever's new and applying it in ways that other people aren't thinking of. And so when I got fired from a job selling software, started a company, and within 6 months, this was the early days of PCs, I recognized that, okay, we need to connect PCs together. Back then, you walked around and you had your 5.25-inch floppy, and who would need to connect a PC? We started, writing software for local area networks, became a systems integrator, $30-some million run rate, and sold it to H&R Block. And then got to the internet. Okay, let's look at this internet thing. Someone's going to need to put audio and then video on there. Great. And then after Yahoo did Yahoo, right? I'm like, you know what? I'm looking at these big screen TVs that cost $30,000 that are high definition television sets, and I'm thinking, you know what? Eventually, they're going to follow the price performance curve of traditional consumer electronics, and they're going to come down in price. So I started the first all high definition TV network called HDNet. Then I'm looking and saying, okay, you know what? It's like 2006, 2007, and traditional television and cable is going digital.
I'm saying, you know what? There's going to be a lot of storage space and first access digital space that cable companies aren't used to using. So let's take a movie production company that we created and let's make it available for day and date distribution where people will pay $20 to the cable company to watch this brand new movie, and we get to keep 10 of it. And so we had 2929 Productions. We started producing movies, and lo and behold, the first movie we created was a documentary called Enron, the Smartest Guys in the Room. Got nominated for Academy Award, then we didn't really create any good ones after that, but by being first leveraging digital storage, we were able to take advantage and make a lot of money. And in the NBA with the Mavericks, just doing those types of things, and it's what I like to do now.
There's nothing that AI won't impact. As big as having been around a while, I saw the impact of PCs, then I saw the impact of local area networks, then I saw the impact of wide area networks, then I saw the impact of the internet, then I saw the impact of mobile, then I saw the impact of wireless. Now I'm seeing the impact of artificial intelligence, and it dwarfs any of those things. And if I don't understand how to apply it to my businesses, I remember selling PCs and software and walking in saying, you don't need to use that pen and paper on a notepad or a ledger pad. Now we're going to give you a spreadsheet. And by the way, here's a spreadsheet that costs $495, and I had to pay to go get trained on how to sell it, which is crazy now when you think about it. But then we said, okay, now you can play what if. Then we said you can connect these PCs. Unless I understood the technology, how was I going to explain it? How was I going to understand it? Unless I understand it now, how am I going to invest in it? Then I got to go trust somebody who says, oh yeah, I know AI, and maybe they do, maybe they don't. And it's really easy just to say, you figure it out. That's just not my style.
So you're building a base of knowledge, and then you think that at some point it's going to pay dividends in terms of...
It already has.
Right?
If you truly believe AI is going to change everything, how are you going to understand what people are doing to change everything unless you at least have a foundational understanding of it? Now, I'm not going to build a 1,000,000-layer neural network and try to change the world. I'm not going to write a research paper and saying, here's why the lottery ticket approach works, and you can build smaller neural networks with less data and be more resource efficient. But I can read that stuff and understand that when somebody says, okay, we're building this project and we need this size data set or this size data set, or we need this amount of resources, I can ask questions and understand the answers.
You're talking, alluding to it earlier about entrepreneurs being born or built, and I think I knew I was wired to be excited about business. How or why, I don't know, but and there's certain guys that have the genetics to jump out of the gym, right? There's certain guys, that when they golf, they have the muscle memory and the discipline. Dirk Nowitzki may not be the most talented guy in the NBA, but his discipline and his focus to do what's necessary to be successful, he's willing to do, and combine it with being 7 feet tall and being skilled, it makes him an amazing basketball player. So it's understanding what your skill set is, finding the right place to use those skills, and then going for it. Will that make you $250,000? It depends if you pick the right industry. But whatever industry you pick, if you outwork everybody, if you try to be a little smarter than everybody, if you try to be a better salesperson than everybody, if you try to be better prepared than everybody, you've got your best chance. Because if you don't do it and somebody else does, I have the saying, work like someone's trying to take it all away from you. I actually work like someone's spending 24 hours, working 24 hours to take it all away from you. And that's kind of the way I look at it.
Because you made it this far in the video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag Believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome.
For 50 more rules from Gary Vaynerchuk, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Focus on execution. My whole life I was told what I was doing was wrong. It was crazy to launch an internet site for a liquor store in 1996. And then I did email instead of catalogs, and that was not smart. What's email?